And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Wheel Talk, the podcast with a guy in a wheelchair and a girl in a wheelchair. Hello, Brittany.
Hello, Fred. Are you feeling better? You were a little sick last week.
Yeah, I was a little under the weather. I was a little bit poorly, and the title of this podcast is "The Quiet Return to Normal." So I've been feeling a lot better, and we spoke a little bit off the pod, and the conversations that preceded this one were a little heavy. We were getting a little bit down, and I think that's completely allowed. But I think
Hmm.
we've both decided that things are like a little bit better. So the quiet return to normal. Things are feeling lighter, and we're just going to talk about just returning
Yeah,
to normality and not feeling so sorry for ourselves.
totally. I think that you can only do that for so long before you either have to really commit to being a negative asshole or you just have to turn it around. And there's nothing that you can do if you can't change the situation. So you may as well just learn to work with it and feel better about it. So that's sort of what my life has been lately. Uh, Using less excuses for all of the things that I've been neglecting to do lately, which is it's kind of nice though to have some sort of excuse every once in a while to just be like, I'm gonna do nothing. And then like for me a solid month, I'm like, okay, I've had enough of that. And now I'm gonna
Mm,
stop whining and move on. But
yeah,
we all have to get that every once in a while, which is why you know, we're so good at relating to other people in wheelchairs because we know what it's like to go down sometimes for a while and then go back up and get back to things that feel good.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I think after the day that I had last week, which you actually reminded me of because it seems I almost forgot about it, but the day where I was a bit ill and I spent all day in bed and I using a lot of excuses not to do things. Sometimes it's really nice to bounce back. Like, for example, if I have a day where I watch way too much YouTube, I'm like, oh God, I'm deleting the app off my phone and I don't watch it for a week. It's like sometimes you need to hit rock
Yeah.
bottom. And I know that I'm using rock bottom as a bit of an exaggeration. But yeah, sometimes you need to get to a low place where you're like, okay, no more, now let's get on with life, and like we said, it coincides sometimes with the time of year when the days are the shortest. You go through the winter solstice, and there's hardly any sunlight, and you're like, ugh. And then all of a sudden, like the days are a little bit longer. The sun peaks over the mountain a little bit sooner, and you're like, it's just sort of goes like cyclical with the seasons. I feel a little bit better. I might. So yeah, I wanted to talk about some things that have been brightening my week. But yeah, how are you? How's the puppy? How's things with you?
You know what? Things are getting busier again. And for, through 2.5 weeks or whatever, there wasn't much going on because it was just returning to school after Christmas and all of that stuff. And now there's that inevitable, like, I have to do things. And so me worrying about the dog can't be like my sole focus, which is like actually still kind of hard and learning to leave the dog on her own. But the funny thing is that like the more I do it, she's totally fine. And I'm like the one that's worrying is me. So it's, yeah, starting to get a lot more busy. Jamie has basketball games. Jacob's boxing is like ramping up because they have like a bunch of competitions coming up in the winter time that lead into the spring where they have like nationals and provincials and stuff like that. So that stuff's happening. We have a concert to go to on Friday. There's lots of things that are just like, normal things happening. Meetings, the research project that I belong to is starting to get back to regular meetings again. So yeah, I'm feeling a lot better about just doing regular life things and less good about using the dog as an excuse. So yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And on the subject of we Athena, how's she getting on? And how are you? How is she fitting in? And how are you getting on? Like,
She's really good. It's starting to feel more like she's just part of the family and less of like this accessory that's really annoying and a lot of work. I'm getting used to her sleeping schedule and I'm getting used to just leaving her or even just like having her in my office when I'm working. I have like a dog bed in here and she'll play around for a little bit and then just fall asleep. She fell asleep for an hour when I was doing stuff at the computer. So she's learning her routine. The weird thing that's happening this week though, is she's like not listening to me because for the first 2.5 weeks, I was like doing training and she would listen like right away. And so this week I'm like, what's happening? She won't listen to me at all. But I Googled a bunch of stuff and it said like as a dog gets more used to their environment, they're braver to just ignore you because they're paying attention to stuff. Whereas when they first get home, you're like their safety. This human is their lifeline. And so I'm hoping that it's just, a little phase where she is like, oh, I'm comfortable everywhere I am now, so I can play and I don't really have to listen to my owner. But yeah, that's kind of been bugging me this week because I'm like, she's never going to listen to me when I leave the house and it's going to be terrible. Again, I just like catastrophize everything. But yeah, I'm taking her in the car to get Jamie from school so that she learns to be good in the car and just like going in and out of the house and stuff like that. So yeah, things
Nice.
are feeling more normal. Jamie said it was like last week that Jamie said this, but she goes, "We're getting our vibes back in the house," because it's so weird
Yeah.
when you have like such a big change that it just doesn't nothing feels normal. It all just feels kind of weird, and now it's starting to feel normal again. Where yeah, the dog is just part of everything that we do instead of the focus of everything that we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I understand that. That's really nice though that she's settling in. My friend Benji just got a dog actually called Roger, a little
Oh,
rescue dog, and he was setting up like because he lives in Portugal. He's got like a little off-grid home, and he's building a little fence and everything. And when he got the dog, they were saying, oh, you need to put all these things in place for even though it's a rescue dog. So he was working tirelessly to build like a little shelter and all sorts of stuff. And then when the guy turned up, he was just like in the car park, he was like, yeah, you can just take the dog. And he was like, well, don't you want to see the things that I've built? And he was like, nah. So he was he was a little bit
yeah.
disappointed because he'd made such an effort. But anyway, he was saying to me how he loves Roger, and it's like making him feel a lot more present in the daytime, just having a dog, and how the dog's settling in. And because it's a rescue dog, it was like quite scared, and now it feels quite safe with him and Roz. And it's just really lovely how the addition of a dog can make you feel. I don't know. It's just like a little companion, isn't it? It's just so lovely to
Yeah.
have a dog, and how the different ways it can affect you. So yeah, it's really lovely.
Totally. Every morning, Joe, like she usually wakes up at like 5:30, which is when I wake up during the week, which is kind of annoying on the weekend because you can't really sleep in. But the dog just got used to sleeping. Her, nighttime is that way. But anyway, Joe gets up in the morning with her at like 5 or 5:30, and I start to get ready for the day while Joe's watching her. But he always goes and takes her to go pee and stuff like that, and then she runs right back into our bedroom and like runs around to where my wheelchair is and like waiting like so that she can come up on the bed and say hi, which is
Oh,
super cute. She's still kind of like a psycho land shark when she's like she comes up and she does like this. It's like flea nipping or something. It's like an affection thing, but she like bites at your neck and at your face. I asked the dog trainer what that was. I was like, "What is that?" And he's just like, "That's a puppy thing. It's kind of how they show affection." It's kind of annoying, but it's cute and annoying. But it's really cute that she comes around to like where my wheelchair is to say hi every
oh,
morning so she can get on the bed. And then she spends maybe like 20 minutes, maybe not even like 10, 15 minutes on the bed, kind of jumping around and, saying hi to me. And then Joel will take her, do some like training, have her breakfast and stuff. Um, and then yeah, I get to spend the day with her. And normally she just kind of does her own thing. Like I'll play with her here and there throughout the day, playing tug of war and stuff like that. But she just mostly just follows me around
oh.
and then plays around in each room that I'm in. And yeah, so it's starting to feel, like I said, better. I remember this feeling when I first got cats because I'd never had an animal before. And cats are obviously a little bit more independent than dogs. You don't really have to watch them or anything, but they don't sleep all night. So when I was like awake in the middle of the night and I could hear the cats running around, it used to freak me out so much. And I hated it. And then when the cats started being able to like jump on the bed, it would wake me up and scare the
Yeah.
shit out of me every night. And so I was like, oh, I hate this. I can't sleep at all. And then eventually I got so used to that noise and the cats were comforting me like every time they jumped up on the bed.
Oh.
And then when Jamie was allergic when she was a baby and we had to get rid of the cats, it took me like months to get used to not having the like something in the house with me. So I'm sure it'll be exactly like that, where it just takes a while for you to readjust to the noises and all the things that the animals do.
Yeah.
And then once they're part of your routine, it's hard to live without it, right?
Yeah, 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 exactly that. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, so I can relate when Greta she jumps up on the bed. It's like, ooh, yeah. But she's cool. She's a bit of a ninja, to be fair. She's not that like heavy, but Yeah, she's quite an annoying cat. I think I've told you in the past. She's like a raccoon. She just like steals food from the kitchen, and yeah, it's just
I
it's like
cats
as
are
a pet. I think there's like this unwritten rule, like you give us love and affection, we'll give you shelter and food, right? You can't go stealing food from the kitchen. That's a pest. Pests live
yeah.
outside. Like she just doesn't agree to the terms and conditions.
I do like I've never had a dog before, so I will say dogs are drastically different than cats. Like cats every once in a while come over for affection, but they're much more independent. Whereas a dog is smart. Like it's so crazy how smart they are. And just teaching her like place and things like that. She knows now that if she wants
Mm,
food, like if I'm eating and she wants like a piece of my egg or something, I taught her that she has to be on her bed or her blanket over by her crate. And so she'll move around, she'll try and figure out all the things, and she'll jump up, and then eventually she'll be like, she remembers, like she thinks, what do I do to get this food? And then she'll go back to her blanket and sit. And then when she does that, then I give her the food. And yeah, when the dog trainer was here the other day, he was teaching her leave it, and she got it in like 2 seconds. And
mm,
because he was like, she had to sort of back up from the treat that she was trying to get the treat in the other hand. She wouldn't even move after a while. Like she just like, as soon as he had the treat in her hand, she just started backing up. Like she's like, I'm not even gonna go for that treat because I
yeah,
know that
yeah.
that's a bad idea. And so I think it's really fun to watch how smart dogs are. And cats
Mm.
are mostly assholes. Like
Yeah.
they're assholes that you feed and occasionally pet and have to like vacuum up after and clean up their litter box. And you get used to that, but it's a very different experience having a dog because for sure the dog can be an asshole too and very, stubborn, but smart, so smart. Like dogs are so
Yeah.
smart.
So Greta, because it snowed outside, she doesn't. She finds it difficult to find somewhere to go to the toilet. She doesn't like to go in the snow. So she started going in the sink, which is great, and in the bathtub, which is there's worse places
Oh,
to go.
yeah.
But like sometimes you just go in the bathroom and you're like, what is that? What is? Oh no, it's this gross smell. And yeah, she's just like either weed in the tub, or occasionally she's pooed in the tub. Again, worst places to go. Of all the places, the bathtub is probably one of the best places to go. But at the same time, you're like, go outside, go outside. So Chris has got into the house because for some reason she announces it. She's like, meow, and then Chris like, get outside. So she just lobs her out. So
That's so
yeah.
funny. Yeah, my cats were normally really good. They had allergies to like grains and stuff, so when they would have diarrhea, they would like it was like they would get scared and they would run while shitting, and then it would be everywhere. It was like, oh my, and they did this for probably like 3 months before I probably spent like $20,000 on my cats because one of them, and this
What?
is horrible. I feel so bad, but like my boyfriend growing up, like when I was a teenager, he had a cat and he had him declawed and he could
Oh.
climb trees. Like he was crazy. So my only experience of having a cat declawed was like that it didn't affect them at all and that they didn't scratch anything. And so he was like, yeah, it's no problem. She doesn't scratch anything in her house. She's totally fine. She can still climb trees. She can still do whatever. So when I got my first cat, I got her declawed and never ever do that to your animals. It is the most horrible thing that you could do to a cat. And they did something like where they caused nerve damage and she was never the same ever again. Like she had nerve pain her whole
Mm,
life. She would like bite her hair out because like it just caused so much nerve pain and it was like the worst. So I
mm,
spent so much money on that cat and then they got allergies and then they like shit everywhere for like 3 months and it was just like but it is really annoying when the cats don't understand like where to go or whatever. And then when my cat who had the nerve pain got old, then she stopped like pooping in the litter box every once in a while. So she would just like on the concrete floor in the basement, usually she would go. So, like, again, that's probably a better place than on my carpet. But
yeah.
yeah, it was really annoying. And I forget all of those really hard things about having cats. And I was in like university, I had,
Mm,
babies, and the cats were, I still had to manage all of that stupid stuff. But I just didn't think about it because
yeah.
I had them when I was a teenager and I moved out with them, so I didn't think about it. But yeah, I think dogs are much smarter and eventually have a much better understanding of the contract between humans and animals. Like, I
Yeah.
listen, I give you love and affection, and in return, you're gonna feed me. So
Yeah. Bonnie's wicked smart. We taught her to put her toys back in the bin. I think I told you before, but so
yeah.
she knows all of her toys by name. So she could be like, "Oh, go get Badger, get Badger." I don't want to say because I don't want her to be all alert. She's asleep at the moment. But get Badger. She'll go get Badger, or then she'll go get. There's one called Paquito. There's all little different ones. And then say Pooh Bell, and she'll like go get the toy and put it back in the bin. And she's so smart. She's it's absolutely insane. And we got some offcuts from the butcher the other day, and she was going wild for them. Like really high value treat. And sometimes she gets a bit even like more like too wild, if you know what I mean. Like sometimes
Yeah.
the treats are so high value. She's like, "Oh, I want the beef, I want the beef," and I'm like, "Whoa, chill out, man." So yeah, but she's a great dog overall. Like a very very smart, well behaved, immaculately behaved dog. Every now and then she's a knob,
Yeah.
but very rarely.
Yeah, I think that that's like most dogs. And it obviously takes a lot of training to teach them manners and all that stuff, which is, that's a little bit of a learning curve for me because I've never trained anything before. But it's not really that hard. It's just about what you allow them to do. If she wants the food that I have and she's jumping all over the place and I give it to her right then that rewards her not being calm and stuff. So learning that she can go through all the behaviors that she thinks, and as soon as she exhibits one, then you reward that behavior. So it's not really that hard to allow a dog to offer the behavior and just
Hmm.
reward it, but learning that is a little bit not intuitive, you know what I mean? But yeah, she's good. She's mostly good in her crate. She is a really good with me because I don't get on the ground with her or anything, so she's actually less demanding of my attention than she is everybody else, because if Jamie gets on the floor, she'll start like trying to play and bite her and all that stuff. Whereas I'm in my wheelchair all day and I don't generally get on the couch that often with her. So she sleeps in her crate and she does all the things that are more chill when I'm at home with her.
Hmm.
Which I think is a really good practice because she still loves when I'm on the couch and stuff. I just don't do it all day so that she's getting that, one-on-one attention and learning that she has my, I'm at her beck and call kind of thing. But
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
it's a fun experience, and we'll see a year down the road if I have a really well-behaved dog or if I keep talking about my asshole dog on here. So we'll have to see. But
No, I'm sure
um,
you're doing a great job. I
yeah,
wanted to pivot away from the animals. I wanted to highlight this
yeah,
comment. Hey, I
yeah.
just started watching you recently. I was injured in a car accident and I am now a T10 complete paraplegic. Your videos are very helpful. You should make more videos. I wanted to highlight this comment because what sort of videos would you like? Because I struggle with making more content because I feel like the content that I've made is fairly evergreen, and if there are any questions that you need answered, I've pretty much answered them all. I really struggle with new content ideas. So if you've got anything specific that you'd like
Yeah.
to us to make videos about, then we're very open to suggestions. Because other than that, like I'm struggling to make content because I feel like I've covered all the bases. How to pee, how
Yeah.
to poo, and struggling with coming to terms with the injury. I feel like I've done that so many times that what else is there to say? But if there is anything specifically, then let us know.
Yeah. I was also curious who you were talking about because I wasn't sure if you found both of our YouTube channels or you're talking about
Mm,
one of us or the other, like one or the other of us. Because the comments don't show on our streaming software which channel you're commenting about or under. It just is like one big comment thread. So, yeah, we don't know necessarily which person you're talking about if you're just saying you.
yeah.
But yeah, that's very cool. I love when people newly find either of our channels and start to use it to help them learn new things that they, don't know how to do because they haven't never been paralyzed before.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
exactly.
struggle a little bit. Oh,
Sorry,
go ahead.
I thought you'd finished. I was just going to say,
No,
Jay
yeah,
says, have you done any Q&As, Fred? I mean, that would be quite a good
that's
idea. If
a
you
great one.
We can do that right now. Like if you got any Q&As or Q's, we've got the A's, you've got the Q's.
Yeah, I
But yeah.
love Q&As. There was a question on the last one that we didn't get to, and I can't even remember what it was, but I saw Oh, it was about whether we get recurrent UTIs. That's what it was. So there, every once in a while, there's like questions that don't necessarily relate to the thing, but it's fun to just do a totally Q&A episode. So yeah, throw your questions in here today if you guys have them. But I've done a couple Q&As. I've gone through like the most common questions that I get in my comment section, and just thrown those in. I've done like an intimacy Q&A. I've done Q&As with Joe. So you could do one with Chris maybe if she's open to it. But I
She
struggle
won't
with
be.
new content too. I know. I struggle with new content too because yeah, what do you make? But I also know that like the videos that I did 3 or 4 years ago, they have so many things that are not necessarily relevant anymore. So I could update stuff because I do my bowel routine slightly different. So I probably should make more videos about that. And then I have other things that I really want to do that are more like not like experiments, but they're just things to show people whether certain things are effective, like what is it, FES machines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like trying to reach out to companies like that to see if I can get those piece of equipment to see if they actually affect my metabolism and things like that. I would really love to do stuff like that. It just takes a lot of collaboration with companies that aren't necessarily willing to give you, you know, pieces of equipment that are thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So
Some
Kelsey says, is it a service dog?
My dog is not a service dog. It's just a dog,
Yeah,
and
just
I
a
don't.
pet.
It's just a pet. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There you go. Not a question, but I did. There is something I really wanted to talk about. Also, just to let everyone know that we've both got a hard out at like 7
Yes.
o'clock or 11
Mhm.
o'clock wherever you are. So at the end of this hour, like I've got people
Yeah.
coming over to play games and eat dinner. So, but
What
there
kind
is
of
something I
games
really
do you
want to.
play? I'm just curious what kind of games you
I'll tell you
play.
next week. I don't know. Like my friends are like,
Oh.
"Oh, we've got a new game that we're bringing over." I'm like, "Oh, excellent." You know, I
Oh,
love
that's
games, so
fun.
yeah, yeah.
That's fun.
So we'll see. Um,
Um, yeah, you were
but
going to talk
yeah,
about your magic that you did this last week. So maybe let's get
yeah.
to that
So
before we get to some of the questions that are in the comments.
oh, okay, yeah, great. I do want to get to the questions, but I did want to share this because it really filled me up. So I've challenged myself to do more magic, right? And I
Yeah.
wanted to hold myself accountable. So I was like, right, before I have a chance to talk myself out of it, I said I'm gonna drive to the hotel and I'm gonna do magic because I love magic. It fills me up. You know, we've spoken about this before. And there's some new tricks that I've got, which I got for Christmas, and I've never tried them out, right? And I know that they're good, amazing tricks, but I didn't know how. You never know how good they are until you perform them, right? And
Yeah.
performing them for friends, performing them for family, performing them for Chris, you know, it's not really the same as like performing them for strangers. So anyway, little story. I'll try and run through it as succinctly and precisely as possible to to save everyone's time. But I went also on the way there. I picked up a hitchhiker, which was great. He was French. His name was Jacques, and
Oh my gosh.
yeah, and he
You're
was so
brave.
lovely. He was yeah, but he was an old man, and we spoke French the whole way there. And he was saying that he was here alone, and his wife doesn't like the cold, and he lives in Paris on the outskirts of Paris. And anyway, it's lovely, lovely. So I was chatting in French, and when I chat in my second language, it sort of kind of gets me into a little bit of a flow state anyway. So anyway, I pulled up at the hotel, and I was like, right, I'm gonna go for it. Saw this group of 3 lads, and they were just sat like on their phones. I said, right, I'm just gonna go over to them before I have a chance to even think about talking myself out of it. And I said, hey lads, how's it going? I was like, you look like you're on your phones, you're being quite unsociable. And they were like, oh no, no, we're talking to our girlfriends, we've been on holiday, and we haven't spoken to them for ages, and we're just checking in. I was like, listen, no judgment, no judgment. I don't know where I get this confidence from, but I was like, oh yeah. But would you be open to seeing some magic tricks? And they were like, oh, amazing, yeah, absolutely. And they all sit up, like lean forward. I'm like, okay, excellent. I'm a bit of a beginner magician. I want to keep your expectations low, but I'd love to show you something I've been working on. And then the woman came around the corner and was like, your taxi's here, lads. And they were like, oh, shit. Oh, we've got to go. The taxi's here. And I was like, no. I was like, oh, well, never mind. So they left. I turn around and there's a lady sat on the couch right next to the open fireplace. And she says, well, I guess you'll have to show me some tricks then, won't you? And I said, I'd love to. I said, well, you kind of heard my spiel already. Keep your expectations low. I'm a bit of a beginner magician. I just wanted to show you a few things I've been working on. Anyway, fast forward. I've had the most wonderful wonderful reaction with this lady, or interaction, should I say? It was more of an energy exchange, and I've shown her some magic. She's absolutely loved it. She also ended up. The reason she was there is because she lost her passport. She was stuck in Morzine. Her friends had gone home. She was waiting for some news from the consulate or whatever. And she was like, oh, I can't wait to tell my friends on the group chat that I've just bumped into a magician. You've just shown me some amazing tricks. And there was some really wonderful... Again, I don't like tricks. I liked to use the word like shared wonder. You know, like it was not... I'm not trying to trick anyone. I'm just trying to share a moment that can't be explained or is highly unlikely. And I love like sharing these moments of magic with people, and it was such a beautiful interaction. We took a selfie together. She posted it on the group chat, and I did this wonderful trick which is called the lucky ladybug, right? And I can tell you how it works because I'm never going to perform it to you because it's one that you have to do in real life. And basically I give her these 3 cards. I say, look at these 3 cards. They've all got ladybugs on them, right? But you hold this one, and look, and then one of the ladybugs disappears. And I wonder if we can try and bring it back. So why don't you try waving your hand over the top? And as she waves her hand over the top, she's got like a little ladybug on her hand, and she's like, oh my god. Am I allowed to swear? I could swear. She was like, fuck me. She's like, oh my god. And she was like literally short of breath. The reaction was amazing. Like the little ladybug on her hand, and she was like, oh my god. And it was one of the best reactions I've ever had from a magic trick ever. And she was blown away, and it was so simple, just as like almost like a little novelty magic trick. There's nothing like massively fooling about it, but entertainment value 11 out of 10. She was blown away. She couldn't believe it, and we just had this wonderful interaction, and it was very patient. I wasn't just like, I'm going to show you magic. It's like, you tell me, because when you've lost your passport, that's a huge deal, right? So she was telling me about her passport, and I was like, oh my god, yeah, like that's terrible, right? And it was just such a lovely interaction. And then, so I just basically, I wanted to share it because it was a really special moment. Like, I made her night. Like, imagine her just like there. She's like, I've come down to the bar on my own with a glass of wine and a book. And then she's going to go back, and be like, oh my God, I just spent 45 minutes chatting to this wonderful, mysterious stranger, who showed me magic and was interested in my story. And yeah, I just wanted to share that because it was a really beautiful moment, and it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't have just spontaneously got up and just left the house and was like, you know what, I'm going to go do some magic. And it was magic.
So
it was magic because it was...
Did you just like randomly pick a place to go? How did you pick where to go?
I picked it because it's a place I've done magic before. It's a hotel that's wheelchair accessible. It's got a wheelchair accessible toilet. I know the owner, and I just randomly went there. And I just wanted to like do it before yeah. My
that sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it was. It was like, oh goodness, like I'm nervous about performing. I was procrastinating before I left the house. I was like, well, I've got to feed the animals. I've got to do the washing up, and I remember like doing all these little things to like stop me from doing the thing. So it was classic procrastination. I recognized that I'm procrastinating, man. Like I said, I was going to do it 45 minutes ago. I've just got to go, and I'd like get in the car, do it before you talk yourself out of it. Picked up a hitchhiker. It was like, just like, come on, I was just like, I'm going to be a yes man. I'm going to be a yes man. And then ended up having the most wonderful, beautiful interaction with a stranger. And it was great. So yeah, she loved it. Her name was Pip. And it was awesome.
You have 0 reservations about picking up a hitchhiker in a wheelchair? Like, you're not scared of people being dangerous?
He was an old man. He was an elderly man. And no, he was fine.
Why was he walking?
Well, he needed to get from like central Morzine to Montreal, and I was driving that way anyway. There's hitchhikers all the time. Like it's a small little town. People are very friendly. Yeah.
The hitchhikers here are not friendly. They're drunk or like homeless or not generally speaking, not safe individuals at all. Even if I see somebody that I'm like, they might be safe, I would never ever pick up a hitchhiker, just as a woman in general, or as a woman in a wheelchair. I'm too terrified that somebody is going to be a murderer. Or just, yeah, but it probably isn't. I mean, my uncle used to hitchhike all the time, and he has so many great stories of like old ladies picking him up and him riding like hours and hours with just like 2, seniors that were going somewhere. And I'm like, that is bonkers to me. So I don't know if anybody else is thinking that Fred is crazy for picking up a hitchhiker in the
No,
comments,
God
or if
no.
it's just me, but that's
No, he was
crazy.
sound. The only reservation I have about picking up hitchhikers is generally if they open the front door, because my wheels are in the footwell.
Oh, I see.
When
Yeah.
they open the door,
They don't
like
fall
I'm
out.
like, oh no 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 no, you have to get in the back. If you get in the back, and then they can't shut the door again because the wheels, like they go down a little bit, and then I'm like, oh god, and then you've got to bring up the wheelchair, and I don't like to like the other thing about having conversations with people, like new people. Eventually, the wheelchair comes up in conversation, and I just sometimes it's predictable. You can see it coming, and it's part of who you are. But like when I was talking to that lady, for example, I wanted to talk about magic. I wanted to talk about her passport and the fact that Chris and I want to have kids, and like her husband and her kids. How old are they? Blah blah blah. Like it wasn't. But then eventually, the conversation turns to the wheelchair, and that's the only reason why I don't want to. Why I'm hesitant about picking up hitchhikers is because one time the guy just opened the door, and not that my wheelchair fell out, but like we couldn't shut the door properly, and I couldn't explain, just sit in the back. But anyway, so yeah.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, it must be different there than it is here because it's generally not like a common practice to hitchhike here. And it's common practice for, law enforcement to advertise never pick up a hitchhiker and all that stuff.
Oh really?
Yeah, so I don't know, maybe it's different there, but I was just like, oh my god, you picked up a hitchhiker? Like that was no big deal. That's amazing though. I think those things where you go outside your comfort zone and you do it before you're too afraid. I remember I used to manage a nonprofit called the Tetra Society. And it's got like places all over North America, but you build devices, you recruit volunteers to build devices for people with disabilities. So engineers, just handy people, anybody really. And I started this chapter in Edmonton and I had to get volunteers. And I was like, I'm going to go to the university and I'm just going to, pop my head into classes like that are like 200 people big and do like these little presentations about the Tetra Society. Now you have to do like a whole big thing. You can't do that. But then I did, and I was freaking terrified. But I'm like, I'm going to do it before I get scared. And I went into like a couple of them and like totally bombed. I couldn't even get out what I wanted to say. And then I went back to my car and I was like, I'm never doing this again. It's horrible. And then before I talked myself out of it, I was like, okay, you already messed up horribly. It can only go up from here. So you may as well finish the other classes. And then I ended up getting like 15 volunteers or something like that. And a lot of them were very inexperienced university students who didn't end up being very good at building devices at all. But a few of them ended up being really great. And it also just like helped me come outside of my comfort zone. And now, I don't know, like the thought of just going to like a random hotel lobby and doing something like that still terrifies me.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was something that I was confident doing, like, well, beginning to be confident doing like magic, then maybe. But yeah, I don't know. That's very cool. I love that you did that so random and then had such a wonderful experience. That's so good.
It was so lovely, and like I think the thing about magic or like sharing moments of wonder like that is not necessarily the fact that it's magic. It's the fact that it's an interaction with a stranger. Like I said to you before, it was an energy exchange. It wasn't just I'm showing you magic. I'm not like a professional magician. I don't have to table hop. There's no time constraint. Like for example, in the middle of the trick, she was holding one of the cards, and it was the trick. The trick I did you, and I realized that like the ending of the trick is not finished. Right? She's holding the card, and I said, "Oh, wouldn't it be crazy if like you could make the ink off the card disappear?" And she was like, "Oh my god, that's so clever." And I realized that the ending of the trick is that I make all the cards disappear, front and back. They're all blank, right? So I've still got this. But then she says to me, "Oh, do you know what? We saw this magician once, like it was actually a few months ago, and he was really great." And she starts telling me this story, and in the back of my mind, I'm like, I haven't finished the trick, but at the same time, I'm like, well, she's trying to connect with me, right? With magic. She knows that I'm interested in magic. She's telling me about a magician she's seen, so I'm like, this is a perfect example of like not rushing, just being like, absolutely, tell me your story about the other magician. I've got like
Yeah.
the trick. She doesn't know the trick isn't finished, right? So so yeah, I said, oh, it's really lovely. Oh, that's such a wonderful experience. Imagine that, like, oh my God, what a beautiful magic memory you have of that moment. That must have been something that very memorable. And on the subject of memories, like, do you remember what I said at the beginning when I said this trip involved imagination? Well, here's something that you'll remember for a while. I said, actually, you've been using your imagination the whole time, and actually, all the cards are blank, And
Yeah.
she was like, "What the hell? No way!" It was so cool. I like there's a thing in Magic where it's called time misdirection, and one of the things that was really good, like, is like a little peek behind the curtain. I said, "Oh, where's the box?" And the box had dropped on the floor. And I picked up the box and I said, "Oh, look, the box has turned blank as well." And she was like, "Oh my God, the box has turned blank as well." But the box was blank at the beginning, but because there was so much time misdirection, she believed that the box had changed as well, because I planted a false memory with her, and she was like, "No way, oh my God, how have you done that? Like, all the cards have turned blank, the box has even turned blank." It was even like more magical, just because I was very patient. And like, I love these little magic interactions because every time I have a little magic interaction, I learn a lot from it. And like I say, it's a special little connection that me and Pip have now.
Yeah.
She had a mysterious stranger show her some magic, and I learned that, the more patient you are, when it comes to, showing people magic, the more special it can be for people. And I think a lot of magicians make the mistake of rushing through magic and just being like, "Look, is this," whereas, I'm not a magician that's got I don't have to like show magic tricks to like loads of people like professional
Yeah.
magicians. I've got the luxury of being a hobbyist magician, So I'm like, "Oh, hey, listen, I can spend 45 minutes talking to you, and brightening up your day, and showing you magic at the same time." It was just really,
Yeah.
really filled me up, man. I came home, I was buzzing. I was just like, yes, I showed magic. I made someone's day, and yeah, I just made a little connection. And like I said to you before, magic is about connection, and it just really, really filled me up. I really wanted to share that little anecdote on the pod.
I think you honing your skills at the connection piece is really important, because that is what an entertainer does, regardless of whether they're entertaining one or 100,000 people. Because I've been to countless like events where you notice that somebody is very talented but not very good at entertaining, and it's always the connection with the crowd or the audience that makes the difference 1000% for me. And if nobody ever interacts with the audience in any way and can't connect with anybody in there, or doesn't even make eye contact, like, there's something special about being in the audience and then the person on stage connecting with you by just even looking at you. If you get to be one of those people that's like an anchor person for them, it's important. And I think that is such a skill that it needs practice, and to hone it really effectively in times where you don't have pressure to keep moving on to the other person, is a really valuable gift, I think. So yeah, keep doing that. And eventually, hopefully you aren't going to have that luxury, because you're going to be some sort of, professional musician, maybe even a famous musician, who knows.
Do you
But
mean magician?
oh my God, magician. I keep saying musician like 14 times. Um, Sorry. As soon as
You
you said
messaged
it,
me
I heard
earlier.
it.
You messaged me earlier and you said, "You're such a great musician." I was like, "I think you meant magician."
What is wrong with my brain? As soon as you said "Joni Me Magician," I realized that I've been saying that over and over again. Oh my God, I'm so dumb.
No worries.
Anyway,
No need to be embarrassed. Yeah, yeah.
magician. It's okay. I say stupid things all the time on TV, or not on TV, but on the internet. So it's okay. I
Yeah.
have said stupid things on TV too. So
So Gary says patience is a virtue and listening is a difficult skill sometimes. Now,
Yeah.
I think listening is not necessarily a difficult skill, but it's very easy to neglect it. It's not a difficult skill if you practice it. So one of the best books that I ever read was How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it's really good to practice listening and realize that people love talking about themselves. And again, this lady, she's interested in seeing my magic, but she's in the eye of the storm right now about losing her passport on holiday. That is her world right now, and she wants to talk to me about that. So for me to just brush past that and be like, "Yeah, I don't care about your passport, like, pick a card, any card," is borderline rude, you know what I mean? So for me to just have the luxury of, like I say, I don't really want to repeat myself, but yeah, just to spend time with her, and just it was really great. Where's my phone? I got a little
picture?
Yeah, we got a selfie together.
That's
She was
awesome.
really lovely.
I think just
There
in
she is here.
general, regardless of whether you're performing something or, oh,
Oh,
that's really cute. That's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
awesome. Um, Regardless of whether you're actually trying to deliver a service to somebody or give a performance to somebody, it's rude to talk about yourself nonstop and to not engage with other people. And I think that that's like one of the biggest things that that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, talks about is that nobody cares about you. They only care about themselves. And the more you engage somebody in things that the other person cares about, the more that they actually think that you're amazing. And if you, yeah, I am an expert at asking questions in waiting rooms or anywhere. And I will sit there and get somebody's life story just because I can ask a million questions. And I will leave there and know that person's name, how many times they were married. And they probably didn't even ask my name, but I love doing that just because there's nothing worse than somebody sitting there talking about themselves, nonstop without you actually having asked those questions. And I've been around people like that before where I'm like, okay, we are on, minute 25 of this person just chatting about themselves without anybody around even asking them to share that information. And it's weird. It's weird when people
Yeah,
just
yeah.
don't have that social awareness that you should care about the other person that's in front of you. Even if you don't actually care, you should, allow them to talk about the things that matter to them.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. 100%. There's I practice this every day at work as well because look, working on the checkout is really nice. I was like sometimes I get into a bit of a flow state, especially this week. I've been like really buzzing. I've been very high energy. I'm really getting used to the like I say, the quiet return to normal. I'm getting used to
yeah.
the early mornings. I'm getting used to the energy
Yes.
levels. I'm getting energized without too much caffeine, and I'm getting really good at chatting to people, having these mini conversations, in French or English, comment allez-vous, vous skiez aujourd'hui, il fait beau, c'est très joli dehors, stuff like that. And then if they're English, it's even better. And I'm like, oh, how you guys doing? Been here long. Oh, how many of you are there? Or I look at what they're like, bolognese tonight, is it? It's just so funny to just have these conversations. And I love interacting with people. And it's interesting because some people ask you about yourself, which is nice. But I realize that if I talk a little bit too much, they lose interest. Everyone prefers talking about themselves.
Totally.
So it's really interesting to have these little practice conversations all day long, and just realize that asking questions is, even if they ask you a question, to sort of put the onus on them. Like
Yeah.
they're on
Yeah.
holiday, like what was the snow like today? What was this like? And stuff like that. And like I said to you before, what I alluded to is that if they say, do you ski? And I'm like, oh, I don't ski. And they're like, why don't you ski? And like I said, also said, being behind the checkout, it's hard to see the wheelchair, which is interesting because that's part of my identity. And what most people see immediately is that I'm the wheelchair guy.
Mm-hmm.
And if the conversation is like, oh, why don't you ski? I don't want to say because I had an accident, I use a wheelchair, because then they're like, oh, how did you end up in a wheelchair? And you're like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to. That's boring. It's not boring for you, but it's very boring for me. So yeah, it's interesting to have these little conversations and like I say, use those skills from the book to try and yeah, just I don't know, interact with people. You just get so much practice every day. It's great.
Yeah, that is awesome. I had a really fun experience with a checkout clerk the other day that I thought I'd share. And I'm pretty sure it was a boy, but I couldn't really tell because it looked a little bit like a girl, but it was like a teenager with longer hair. Name was Ray, so I'm assuming it was a boy. So I'm going to call him a he, and I apologize to whoever this is if you aren't a boy. But he was putting my groceries away, and I said, because I had a bit of groceries and I had one bag that was not like hard sided, because normally I have hard sided things that are easy to carry my groceries out to my car in. So I was like, if you stack it correctly, I'll be able to carry it out myself without it falling off my lap. And I was like, sometimes people can't though. So I'm like, if you don't think you can, then just fine if I get somebody else to help me out. And he goes like, oh, Tetris. And he took on the challenge. He's like, I got this. I got this. He's like, don't underestimate me. It was so cute. And then he totally stacked it like perfectly so that the bag was like not floppy in any way. And it was so charming and so amazing because all I did was request what he would do to help me be more independent. And instead of being like, no, I can get somebody to help you, which is what like 90% of checkout clerks do. He was like, he just like did the whole, I got this, don't worry, like we
Yeah,
got this.
yeah,
And it
yeah.
was so funny. And so now I will forever remember like this little, not little, he was like, probably 15, 16 years old, checkout clerk that was a teenager with red hair named Ray, just because of that one little interaction. And it was so amazing. And I probably will email the store to just be like, this interaction was so genuine and so awesome. And he even talked about being tired, and his feet hurting and all that stuff, but it was so cute and genuine and very positive. Like it wasn't like, oh, I'm having a bad day at work. He's like hopping on his feet and he's just like, this is hard being on your feet all day. Like, I don't know how people do this. And he's like, I've got like 1 hour left. I can't wait till I'm done. But he was so cute and positive. So I think you can really make somebody's day just by being genuine and, like you say, helping somebody else out with something that matters to them. Because if I hadn't talked about myself, then he wouldn't
Yeah.
have had that opportunity to help me make my day better. And he did it in such a great way. So yeah, it's a neat job. There's people at the checkout that are grumpy and just, putting
Yeah.
your groceries through like, wow, I'm sorry that you still have to work at your age or that you really hate your job. And then there's other
Yeah.
people that just take it as, a real opportunity to connect with people, which I think is
Yeah.
really great. Speaking of connecting with people, there's lots of, not tons, but there's lots of comments and questions. So I thought we should get to a few of those before we have to jet.
Good idea.
Okay.
There's one here, real quick. Have you tried skiing since your injury? I get asked this at the supermarket as well. Yes, and I don't like it. We've brought this topic up before, but I feel like it's dangerous. I don't want to hurt myself. I don't enjoy it. It's not the same anywhere near as the amount that I could express myself on my snowboard. And I don't like the cold. My feet get freezing, and it's just not for me. But yeah, there you go. But Brittany is trying to get me into cross country, and
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. But
I still think it's fun. It's funner. I'm not sure if this question is for us or somebody else in the comments because Go Go Yo Yo's been around for a while, so I would assume that they would know when our injury was. But mine was in 1999, and no, I'm not still.
He's tagged the other guy who asked the question.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Darts. Yeah. See, I was so confused about that. I was like, what? Yeah. Okay. I didn't think it was for us. But I wasn't sure. Thank you for that because I didn't notice that he tagged somebody else. Has Athena had her declaws removed? Whatever that means. She's not declawed. I'm not declawing a dog. I don't know what that means, but where are the other ones that there was a bunch and I'm now not seeing where they went.
How's your pressure sore? Hope it's
there was
well.
that one. It is almost entirely gone. I'm actually gonna do a video soon. I took a picture of all the things I ate in a day the other day to heal a stage 1 pressure sore. I've been really terrible at actually being intentional about eating, but I didn't do anything special on this day that I ate that I would normally not eat. And it ended up, being pretty on par with what I should have eaten in terms of nutrition. So I'm going to do a little like voiceover thing for that and show you guys where my pressure sore is at, but it's almost gone. Yeah, it's good because it was again mostly just like a shearing injury, so it wasn't actually pressure, but
nice. We have another one that says, hi, I'm also paraplegic and I benefit greatly from your video uploads and podcasts. Thank you. Again, I don't know who you're talking about, but that's really lovely and kind. But again, like what other things could we upload? I feel like we've covered all the bases by now, which is interesting because I love coming on the podcast every week, but sometimes I feel guilty about the people on Patreon that are giving me money and I'm not like uploading. Like no one's complained so far, like, hey, like we want more uploads, but sometimes I'm like, well, I really, really appreciate the support and it's great, and but sometimes I don't like I said to you before, like if I go on holiday or if I do something, I love documenting it and vlogging about it, but sometimes there's just not that much happening, and so yeah, if I've got nothing important to share, then I don't want to make a video about nothing, but if there's anything specific, then let
Yeah.
me know.
I'm like the opposite. I'm the worst at documenting things and the best at educating. Not the best, but like I'm much more talented at like thinking of a video topic on something that I could educate people on, specifically like nutrition or like things about paralysis, medical stuff, whatever it is, and then doing that video rather than trying to like think about me. Even like when you said like you should document the dog thing, I'm just like in my
Oh
day,
yeah.
I'm like, when do I take out the camera and what do I show them? And what, you know what I mean? Right now, I'm feeling like annoyed about the dog at this thing. Do I take out my camera then, or do I take out my camera when I'm like, oh my God, she's so cute. I love this. I don't know. That's what I mean. I'm terrible at that. Whereas you're so much better at documenting real life stuff like that. And I don't know how you manage to do it well.
Ah,
Because
well,
I
that's
end up
kind.
taking a lot of footage that I don't know how to piece together into something that's like coherent. Although when I do vlog or something, I end up putting it into something coherent. So I don't know. I worry about it so much. But um, here's a
There's this
question.
one.
Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think I might
No,
have
you're
beat you
good.
to it.
That's okay.
Content idea: motorized wheelchairs versus manual chairs.
I
This
was gonna
sparked
highlight
an
this
idea.
one.
This was sparked an idea. Did you see that Not a Wheelchair have brought out a motorized axle that they can, so you can have?
Yeah,
Did you see that? Cool,
I
right?
did. I didn't actually see it, but one of the guy I got my wheelchair from, who owns 49 Bespoke in Ontario. Reg is amazing. If anybody's from Ontario, I highly recommend getting a wheelchair from him. He's a wheelchair user of like 50 some years. He showed me the video of that, and it's not actually their product. It's somebody else's product that they've partnered with, apparently. So I
Oh,
can't
okay,
remember if
yeah.
he said who actually makes it, but Not a Wheelchair is like sort of like a vendor of it. And are offering it as like an add-on to all of their wheelchairs. I also got an email from Samantha, who's on here a lot of the time and is one of my
Hmm.
Patreon members. And she said that they now have introduced shipping to Canada for Not a Wheelchair. And I was like in talks with Zach, the owner, about like doing a review of their wheelchair. So I'm going to email him because he said as soon as like Canadian stuff is, if their Canadian shipping is up, he's happy to give me a wheelchair so I can review it.
Ah,
Nicest person ever. So yeah,
yeah.
I this was probably like a year and a bit ago that I emailed them about
Nice.
their wheelchair. So yeah, I'm gonna
That's
see
super cool.
if they'll send that to me. Maybe they'll send me the like motorized thing. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah, that would be really
The,
cool. So I'm surprised that they don't ship to Canada because they do worldwide shipping, I'm sure.
They do now, apparently. There's been a few things with the difference between the Canadian and US, because the company that I get my wheelchair cushions from, they ship internationally all over Europe, but they do not ship to the US, and they ship in Canada. And then a couple companies ship internationally and in the US, but not to Canada. And I think that there's something different about the like legalities of shipping medical equipment in the United States and Canada, that creates some sort of barrier between Canada and US that is not like impossible to overcome. It's just like paperwork and stuff that you have to do with the
Mm,
government or with the whatever regulating bodies or whatever. But um yeah, I'm excited to
got you.
try their wheelchair and hopefully they'll still give me one. Speaking of
Yeah.
that, did the scooter company ever email you?
No, I checked my spam folder and I didn't get
No.
anything from them.
I'm gonna
So,
email them again because they said they were definitely going to contact you. So
oh,
that's interesting. The reason that I never do content on motorized wheelchairs versus manual wheelchairs is because I have zero experience as a power wheelchair user.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I
me
have
too.
gotten probably like 10 and multiple times companies, roommate, there's like a bunch of ones that have emailed me that are motorized wheelchair companies that want me to do a review, but I don't have any experience and don't feel like I have
Yeah,
the proper knowledge base to give a good review. So I never review stuff. Plus I don't need a free power wheelchair. What am I going to do with a bunch
yeah,
of these power wheelchairs other than maybe give them away? And I want to make
exactly.
sure that I'm giving genuine knowledge that I have a basis for when I'm making videos. So I probably won't ever do a video on a motorized wheelchair unless I need a motorized wheelchair.
Exactly,
Um,
yeah.
yeah.
Jay said couples video with Chris.
Yes.
I would like to do that. I don't think she would be open to it at all. 100%. She's very shy. but I'll ask her. But then we'd have to have like some sort of Q&A. Like I don't know. Who knows? But I could try. I'll plant the seed, but don't get your
Yeah,
hopes up.
you vlogged in Spain or wherever you were with her, and she seemed fine.
Yeah, I suppose. I think that was a little bit different. That was a little bit more candid rather than like, right, well, let's set up the camera and do you know what I
Oh,
mean?
I
So
see. So it didn't feel
yeah,
as if as nerve-wracking.
yeah,
Yeah, it took me a while to get Joe to come on the YouTube channel, like a couple of years actually, I think. And he's
yeah,
still, if he's home, I offer him like, you should come on the podcast. He's like, nah.
yeah.
I'm like, okay. How was university as a wheelchair user? It was mostly okay. The only thing that I didn't really like was that I didn't realize that the university campus that I went to was massive. So it was the same size basically as the town that I lived in growing up. And I didn't understand that a university campus could be that big. Um, and so when I booked my classes, when I first started university, I had no concept that these buildings were, you know, 3 city blocks away from each other. And you have like 20 minutes to wheel from one class to another. So my first semester of university was a gong show because I couldn't make it to any of my classes on time because they were very far away. But I got really strong that year because I was wheeling so far. So other than that being a challenge and me learning how to pee really efficiently in public bathrooms and parking and all of that stuff. And then there was like a couple of lecture halls where they were like you would go in at the back, but there was nowhere for a wheelchair to sit at the back. So you had to go down this really steep ramp that was not realistic in any way at all for somebody to push themselves down or up. So I would wait at the back at the doors and I would like ask somebody to push me down. And occasionally there would be like people that would be like, no, thanks. And I'd be like, okay. And then I'm like, okay. So that was a little weird, but I always made some sort of friend that would wait for me and like push me up and down. So there was like accessibility challenges, I guess. And then in like the science labs and stuff, none of the labs that I was in were really accessible because it was an old building. And so they always had to get me a lab tech that was specific to me. So I got like a person basically that was the university hired through specialized support services or something. And they had to like pour the stuff in the beakers and all that stuff because I was not allowed to reach up. It was like a liability thing. And I think that they have accessible lab stations now because that building has since been demolished. That was really annoying though. I'm like, this is dumb. I'm like, I can pour the beaker stuff, but they were like, nope, if you spill it on your lap, then you will get a chemical burn. And so that was
Yeah.
really weird. There was a funny things like that happened in university, but it was mostly good. Yeah.
Nice. Right, quick fire. Do a workout video, Fred, and swimming. Done.
Yeah.
Jay, swimming after paralysis. Look on my channel. Done it. Workout videos. I've done quite a few different ones about how I work out in the gym. So, yes. And also, this one was a really good one. When entering indoor conversation and the first question out of the other party's mouth is, what's wrong with you or how did you get injured? Is there ever a time you just not want to tell them? Absolutely. Done a video about that as well. Done a video. I always say, oh, that's a great question, but I know an even better question. You know, what's the secret to a happy life? You know, that's much more interesting and stuff like that. I did a whole video about like how to deflect from that question into other, politeness, rather than, snarky. So yeah, I've ticked all the boxes, baby. But yeah, so there are loads, again, I feel like cringy saying this, but go back and there's loads and loads of great videos. Like I don't want to repeat myself on stuff that I've already covered, but yeah, I've sort of covered those bases.
Yeah, I think sometimes staying relevant so that they don't get buried is something that a lot of content creators do, and they just redo stuff they've already done. But if you don't feel like doing it, then that's the thing. Like, it's so hard to want to do stuff that you feel like you've already said. But I'm gonna like hold us to this. Like, we're gonna get off at the right time because you have people coming over and I don't want to go over because I want you to have a wonderful evening with Chris and your other friends. And I have a doctor's appointment. So we are going to say goodbye a couple of minutes early today and we will see you all next week.
Perfect. And I've been holding a wee since 10 minutes into, I've been like 50 minutes now. I've been holding a wee, which is
totally,
like, well,
you can see, I have seen that. Yeah. Okay. We'll see you guys all next week.
Oh, quick one. It might be next Monday. We'll let you guys know. But
right.
Tuesday is the only day off I have with Chris. So this was a little bit inconvenient today, but might be Monday next week instead of Tuesday. Sorry, I know everyone
Yes,
loves
we might be
Tuesdays,
switching it
but
back to Mondays. So yeah. Okay. See
anyway,
you guys.
peace and love. See you later. See you
Bye.
next.